I'm going to just share some of my experiences and some of the points that I feel have led them to think very carefully about this issue. It's particularly important because, as Brian said, not only is the public not very well informed about euthanasia, but also many MPs have never really had to apply their minds to this issue because it hasn't been debated in the Commons for so many years. And so we have an opportunity to educate and inform and hopefully encourage the MPs who will have a vote on this legislation, should it ever come to that, to the right point of view. And I have been hugely encouraged as I've spoken with them because very, very many of my colleagues, when they understand the issues, are hugely supportive. So let me just share some of the ways that I've spoken with them that I feel have really connected. Firstly, it's important just to explain basically the law, that it is not legal to assist someone in their suicide, that euthanasia in this country is not legal, but that these cases which we read of in the press, these few cases, you might call them compassionate cases, the law does provide for them and for the DPP to use his discretion not to prosecute those involved. But they are very, very rare and very, very few. And it's important that we don't extend this more widely. And the reason that that's important, and this really does resonate with MPs, is that we do not want to place pressure on vulnerable people to end their lives for fear of being a financial burden or a care burden. And that really does resonate. MPs are very, very aware now of the increasing elderly population that we have, and it's a challenge that we in Parliament and those in local government are going to face on an increasing basis, how to care for our elderly population. And the last thing we want to do is to open the door to anything that would lead to euthanasia. And again, use the comparison with Holland and other countries. It really does resonate when you say that if we had a law comparable to Holland in this country, we would have up to 13,000 people a year who would be dying before the natural end of their lives. And that really does resonate with MPs. The law, as it stands, is here to protect the vulnerable. And as it is with many laws, it's important that we don't change the law, which protects the weak and the vulnerable, just to accommodate these very few cases which have received disproportionately high profile in the media. And when MPs really begin to understand how any change in the law could impact not just thousands, but tens of thousands of people across this land, then they begin to understand the importance of us retaining the legislation as it now stands, a strong law to protect the weak. We also, I've also found that when I talk about the medical profession, this resonates too. The fact that doctors do not want to be put into the position of ending lives. And there's some statistics which have been kindly quoted by Peter Saunders this morning as we were speaking about this issue. 65% of doctors and 95% of doctors who are involved in palliative care oppose any change in this legislation. That's a very strong argument. We don't want the medical profession put in this conflicting situation. The issue of palliative care has been mentioned today, and I can tell you that that is a subject which garners huge support in Parliament. There is an all-party parliamentary group on palliative care, and it's very, very well supported. When you go to their meetings, huge amount of support. And so to talk about that our priority in this country should be to support good palliative care in this country, that we have, compared with many other countries, a fantastic heritage of palliative care. We all think it could be improved, but that should be the direction of travel in this country, to improve palliative care, not to go down the route of looking at how we can end lives, but rather to promote dignity right up to the very end of natural life. And it's interesting to know that in countries where there is good palliative care, there are far fewer requests for assisted suicide, and that is the case in our country today. Those arguments I have found have worked very well. I think also it's important to mention to your Member of Parliament that there are very many disability rights groups, about 30 disability rights groups who have registered their concerns about any change in the law. Some have said to me, we feel threatened, please protect us. And that's a very powerful argument. The economic pressures that the country is going to face over the next few years in terms of caring for our elderly are going to be huge. It's certainly going to be the major pressure for local authorities, for local government. And of course we know that 30 to 50% of our total healthcare costs occur at the end of our lives. But that is no reason why we should change this legislation. I'm a great believer that we need to look again at how we care for our older generation, and it's I think something which is shared, a view that's shared by many MPs. Only last week there was a debate in Parliament promoting the idea for the first time of a minister for the elderly. And I think that's absolutely the right thing we should do. By all means, we need to look at how we can care for our older generation, but introducing assisted suicide is certainly not one of them. So for all of these reasons, and by all means please bring in your own personal experiences, because it does make a difference when you talk about a personal experience, a family member, or your local hospice, and the work that the local hospice are doing. MPs are hugely supportive. Invite them to go along to your local hospice. Develop a relationship between your local MP and the hospice if there isn't already one there. All of those arguments, basically, I have found, as I've spoken with MPs, resound with them. If I can say, if you can't go to speak with your MP, do write, but by all means write a personal letter. Try to avoid sending an impersonal email or what looks like a stock email. Personalise it. It makes such a difference. If I can say this, that if I get... and this is just me, a random MP, a random figure. If I get 5 constituents contacting me on one issue, then I really sit up and think they are representative of quite a number of people in my constituency, and I have to take note. So can I encourage you not only to go and see your MP, but encourage friends, encourage others in your churches or others who may not have a religious faith, but believe in the importance of respecting life, to go along, see their MP at the surgery or write to them, so that the MPs really are garnering this impression from their constituencies that this is something that they not only believe is right to themselves, if you've spoken to them and you've convinced them of that, but also is representative of what the constituency they represent is thinking, and is not representative of the disproportionately high profile publicity that Dignity in Dying is aiming to achieve through the media and other means. Thank you very much.